give it just a second for everyone to be able to join. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to today's private investor meeting with Space Phoenix. Today, we are going to hear from the CEO and founder of Space Phoenix, Andrew Parlock. Just a couple of notes about today's meeting. This meeting will be recorded so that afterwards we'll get you the recording if you missed any of it or if you want to re-listen to any part of it. We're going to have about 25 minutes of presentation, and that is going to be followed by a Q&A session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to write them in the chat during the presentation, or you can private message them to me or ask them after the presentation in the chat as well. We'll probably have about half an hour or so for Q&A following the presentation. We'll put up a quick poll during the Q&A, so you'll see that. And with that, I think that's all the info. So I will turn the time over to Andrew Parlock, the CEO and founder of Space Phoenix.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Skylar. So Andrew Parlock, I want to introduce, before we even get into Space Phoenix, we got a lot of the team on the call here. Starting in the middle of my screen is Kendra Parlock, my co-founder and functioning as our strategic advisor right now. Next to her on my screen, we have Frank Johnson. Guys, just wave your hand so people can see you. Frank Johnson, our COO and revenue officer. Next to Kendra on her left, Stuart Cohen. He's a director of strategic partnerships. Bob Richardson down below as our CFO right now, and doing a lot of work for us in the background. So really appreciate you, Bob. Mike Larkin is our Chief Marketing Officer. Fawn Patrick is our Director of Marketing Operations, and everybody on this call that is attached to Space Phoenix already knows that we do just about everything that we can do. Hey, we're here to talk to you all today about what Space Phoenix does, and in particular, what we've put together with American Deep Tech called a special purpose vehicle. We have a special purpose vehicle out there. That's a fancy way of saying a investment vehicle that anyone can jump into without having to worry about real large dollars coming into the cap table. We try to keep the cap table at about 250,000 minimum investment. But that's what we're here to talk about today. But really what we're here to talk about is Space Phoenix and what this is all about. So I like to tell a story first, how this all got formed. And I'll keep it short. But 2023, I believe it was, I was convened in LA at the Economist magazine's first ever Space Economy Summit. And I was one of the featured speakers, and I was a member of a roundtable for in-space manufacturing. And there was about 50 global in-space manufacturers at the table. And there was a question asked, and everyone's pontificating about space, right? Everything's made better in space. Everything grows better and is made better in space. That's a fact. But everyone's pontificating about their technology. And a gentleman from Bank of America asked a question. He said, okay, this is really great. We're solving all the world's problems, literally building new semiconductor materials, curing cancer. These are not exaggerations. These are things that are happening in space. He said, who can get to space and get back without the US government's help? No one raised their hand, including myself. That is the point Space Phoenix was born. All we do, as you see on the screen here, all we do is simplify access to space. We feel that concept's revolutionary. We don't do rockets. We don't do payloads. We're the middleware. I often say we're the most unsexy part of space. We just get your stuff up, we help complete the mission, and we bring it down. Because in the end, what we're trying to do here is drive a multi-trillion-dollar market, right? We've got to drive that market here on Earth. If you go to just about any space company out there, they start with this slide. They start with their satellite or their hardware against the backdrop of Earth, and it's very dramatic, and we do it too, right? It's very dramatic. Space is dramatic. But if we're not driving value terrestrially, we've missed the mark, right? To do space for the sake of doing space is not what we're here for. We're here to help companies, to remove the burden from companies of getting to space, completing the mission, and then getting their products back to the markets on Earth. That's what this is all about. And why is this important? Well, these are three of our customers, guys. These are real customers, LOIs signed, contract signed with one of them. United Semiconductors is creating the next generation of semiconductor materials. These are semiconductor materials that are 10 to 50x more efficient than anything you can create on Earth. You get rid of gravity, you get into the hyper clean environment of space, and you can truly change the world. Flawless photonics, they've already been up. All three of these companies have been up to the International Space Station and back. And now they're looking for who's going to be their production partner. That's Space Phoenix, right? But Flawless Photonics is creating fiber optic cables that are literally 100 times more efficient than anything you can create on Earth. Lambda Vision, you got to look these guys up. Nicole Wagner is just an amazing PhD scientist. They are 3D printing retina in space to cure blindness here on Earth. You simply cannot print the retina on Earth. Gravity will not allow it. It's something you can do only in space, and we can literally cure blindness. So quite incredible. What's the opportunity? The market's massive. The market is at least $2.3 trillion. Anna Brady Estevez from National Science Foundation, right before she left the National Science Foundation, she said, no, the market's actually 4 to 6 trillion. And Larry Fink of BlackRock, about 3 months ago, said, no, it's at least double that. So you're staring down the barrel of a multi-trillion-dollar market, no matter how you slice it, and there's no infrastructure to manage it. So this is where Space Phoenix comes into the equation. We're that middle infrastructure. Launch. Everybody asks us about launch. Folks, we don't do launch. Okay? Launch is being managed. SpaceX, Blue Origin, these are few that you recognize. Some names you might not recognize. Relativity, Firefly, ESAR out of Germany, InnoSpace out of South Korea. We're working across the global launch industry to manage that risk. And we can put multiple satellites, multiple spacecraft on a single launch vehicle and be very successful, right? We don't do the payloads. We don't do the launch. It's being managed. Because in the end, you know, the next question, people always ask us about launch. The next question people ask about is, what's your technology? What's the IP? What's your technology moat? Folks, this is not a technology constrained problem. It is a capacity constrained problem. We've got great technology. We've got an exquisite team, and we've got a world-class business model. But what we're trying to solve is a capacity problem. You've got a multi-trillion-dollar market. You've got two companies globally that are trying to solve this multi-trillion-dollar problem. We're not going to get there, folks. It's expensive, $150,000 a kilo, up and back. It takes forever, 4 to 6 months to plan your mission. And little known fact, we got some insider information on this. The International Space Station is over 700 microgravity experiments behind. So if Space Phoenix did nothing but manage the backlog for the International Space Station, we'd have a $50 million a year business for the next 10 years, right? But we're going to do more than that, right? That's the story. That's the story. This is what we do. Returnable payload on demand. What we want to do, what we expect to do, is build an Expedia-like interface, right? And that's what's happening here. The person there sitting in front of their computer, they're gonna book their mission, and then Space Phoenix is going to take care of everything else. We take the burden off the in-space manufacturer, off the microgravity researcher, off the university partner, the government partner. We take the burden from them and we manage, we pick up the payload, we get it integrated into a satellite, we get the satellite integrated onto a rocket, manage the in-orbit operations, return the entire spacecraft, extract the payload, and deliver the payload back to the customer for delivery into the market, right? What's that all mean? What are the benefits? Out of the gate, we're cutting the cost by 50% to the marketplace. That happens out of the gate. We can talk about why that is and what we've done to manage that. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's some regulatory challenges and some other more regulatory challenges than anything else. But eventually, by 2028, 2029, we're going to get the scheduling under 100 days. We were talking to a DoD customer, DoD, DoW, I don't know what we're supposed to call it right now, a defense customer the other day. And they were really excited about this 100 days or less because that's all they care about. They just need to get payloads up quickly. Right? That's unheard of kind of stuff. If anyone's built big stuff or been involved in space, NRE, non-reoccurring engineering, this is the place where your investment goes to die. We all but eliminate the need for the third party to have any non-reoccurring engineering, right? And then zero cost. If you want to put up a single kilo of payload, we're going to charge you for the single kilo. We'll charge you for the power you use, the size of your package, and your mass. That's it. You simply can't even do that today. There's no mechanism to get a kilo of anything into space. So we're completely changing the market. Next question everyone asks us is, oh, do you compete with SpaceX? No, we don't compete with SpaceX. We're going to partner with SpaceX. We're going to manage a part of the market that SpaceX doesn't manage, right? The Dragon is massive. It's also $1.6 billion a copy. It goes up 2 to 3 times a year. It costs $160 million a launch. We're high cadence, multiple launches per year, low cost, on demand. That's what this is all about. We are a market differentiated capacity that we expect SpaceX and its customers to use and to utilize. Okay? Competition. I don't even like using the word competition. Folks, we've got a multi-trillion-dollar problem, and we've got 2 people in the market that are managing it. These are all what I call near-peer partners, right? There's 3 companies globally that are very close to doing what Space Phoenix is doing. Catalyx out of India, Elevation Space out of Japan, Atmos out of Munich, Germany. We are the only ones of these near-peer partners that are US based. There's some other companies out there. If you're in the market, you've probably heard of Varda. Great company doing amazing stuff, up and back, 11 kilos at a time, right? And Varda will tell you they're a biotech company. So the question I have for Varda, and I've posed this to them, is why is a biotech company building a spacecraft? We wouldn't do that terrestrially. Space Phoenix is trying to solve that problem. We're trying to answer that problem for Varda, right? Terrestrially, we don't do that. So why do we do it in space? Why this hyper focus on vertical integration? We're trying to solve that problem. There's a couple other guys out there, Inversion out in California, doing some very cool stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about Voyager and K2 in a second. They're doing very cool stuff, but they've already said they're not going to support the in-space manufacturing market. They're going to do a little work with microgravity, but they've made some technology changes. Voyager is connected. Voyager, the question about Voyager and K2, they're both connected to Starlab, one of the new commercial space stations that's coming online end of 29, beginning of 30. We're already in pretty serious conversations with Voyager to be their up and back, their up mass and down mass partner. So, and they're going to be a great partner. Dream Chaser, Boeing, all of these are, yep, Axiom Space, great company, already in conversations with Axiom. Axiom is building the next generation of commercial space station. All of these folks, Axiom, VAST, Starlab, Gravitics, these are all the new commercial space stations. These are all the folks, companies that are replacing the ISS. We are going to partner with every one of them because they all need up mass and down mass. That's the technical, the space nerd conversation, up mass and down mass. Traction. The traction's exquisite, guys. We over $300 million pipeline. I think actually, Frank, I think we're at over 8, 9, or 10 letters of intent. We have letters of intent, not just from customers, but from strategic partners. Probably the most important being Rogue Space, another company up in New York called Space Rig, and most recently, we are putting together a letter of intent and an MOU with the state of Texas to have a manufacturing facility there. So our traction is not just in customers, but our traction is in how we're going to move forward in the market, how we're going to move forward with the development of the company, the manufacturing capability, and everything, right? This can't just be one trick, right? Otherwise, 2 years from now, we'll be talking about a small company trying to manage a big problem, and we don't want to do that.
Hey,
We have
Andrew.
a, go ahead, Frank.
Andrew, could I just interject just to drive the point home, folks? Hi, this is Frank again. Thank you all for being here. The net of it is we are effectively sold out through the year 2030. NASA is on record as telling us if we could deliver 100 missions today, they could fill all of them up right now, let alone by the end of the decade. And second point, two customers of ours, United Semiconductor and Single Crystal Diamond, walked up to us and equally said, if you guys had 100 missions today between the two of us, we could book all 100. So part of our strategy now has shifted from selling and filling up and taking reservations for the next few years to how do we double, triple, or quadruple our capacity by 2029, 2030. There's this much demand. I know you can't see this, and there's only this much capacity available. It's a pretty exciting time for us. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
No, it's a great. John Vickers, before he left NASA, before he retired, actually posed the challenge to us. When can we get to 100 missions per year? I was on that call by myself that day. I had 17 folks from NASA asking us the same question. How quickly can you get to more capacity, more capacity, more capacity? This, folks, the doors are about to get blown off this market. Yeah, definitely. ESA is extremely important. Andrew, you asked a question that you're helping us with. I appreciate that. Andrew Rose is on the call and is actually helping us with some work in Europe with ESA is the European Space Agency. Sorry, I'm everything in space is an acronym, and I have a tendency to use all those acronyms. We're also going to be the founding partner of what's called the Beacon. It'll be the first of its kind globally, Center of Excellence for In-Space Manufacturing. So not only are we supporting the market, but we're helping others kind of come up into the market. And I think that's important. We can talk about that more in the Q&A section. Funding, very straightforward, folks. 6.5 million. This SPV is part of that 6.5 million. But if there's a larger investor on here, there's definitely an opportunity to come in for the final 3.5. Don't be concerned about that. Our use of funds is very straightforward, on purpose by design. Guys, we're building the FedEx box truck for space. In that, we're trying to keep everything very simple. We're myopically focused on infrastructure and logistics, and keeping everything simple. So last night we were up in New York and we were asked about missions. Our first mission will launch Q2 of 2027. In 2027, we'll have about 4 revenue generating missions. Outside chance of 5, but chances are 4. That's really exciting. Guys, revenue and profit is not a dirty word for this startup. For some startups it is. It's not. We drive everything to revenue. And with that said, the revenue in 2027 is significant, over $30 million. By 2028, we're north of $60 million, and then we begin to hockey stick pretty quickly in 2029. 12 plus missions in 2028 and 50 plus missions in 2029. I put the plus because depending on the support we get from NASA, is depending on how quickly we move and how much capacity there is in the market to manage. You know, we'll grow with the market. The team, I think this whole team's on here right now. I hope the team's not insulted. I say this all the time. We have a little more gray hair than most startups, on purpose, by design. This is an execution-focused team. This is a capacity problem that we're trying to solve. Bob Richardson, Frank Johnson, Kendra Parlak, Stuart Cohen, Mike Larkin. The team we have on Fawn Patrick, the team we have here are industry leaders that know how to execute. That is the big difference from the startup. We're not learning as we go. Guys, we've done this before and we're going to be successful here. Bart Fisher's also on the line, one of our lobbyists and also investment counsel down in DC. And we got a few other people. I think Jason Wynn's on here as internal counsel. We've got an amazing team, guys. And then we got about another 30 to 40 people behind us that are supporting us because the mission's so damn cool. And I'm going to try to get off the stage here. This is an operational view of what we do, guys. If you see here, this is the SpaceX Falcon 9. We're going to integrate onto a launch vehicle, get up into space, release the spacecraft, complete the mission, return, repeat. The interesting thing about this, called Project 100, in the history of the space program, a single spacecraft has not been launched, returned from space, and then launched again and returned from space in 100 days. We're going to be the first company to do it. That's going to blow the doors off the industry as well, right? We keep talking about cadence. This Project 100 is going to prove it. Guys, really hope you join us. I think Anna Brady is on the line as well. Anna Brady is supporting us with American Deep Tech Ventures. So we got a lot of support on this phone call. But guys, it was funny. My get off, thanks Anna. Our get off the stage picture here is really about what we're all about. Let's use space to drive terrestrial value and value in the terrestrial marketplace. That's what this is all about. That's our myopic focus. So when we go back to the competition slide, this will be my last statement, and then we'll go to questions. You go back to the competition slide, and everyone talks about competition. We are the only ones globally, and I have been on stage once, twice a month for the past year, all over the world. We are the only ones globally that are talking like this to deliver value to terrestrial marketplace. So I really hope you join us. Love to hear some questions. If it's not obvious to people that don't know me, I can keep talking.
Hey, Andrew.
Please.
Andrew, before we open it up for Q&A, hey, folks, last week, I don't know if you saw the announcement, we were one of the recipients of Pepperdine Schools of Business, America's Most Fundable Company Award. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with the program, about 2,000 to 3,000 startups apply every year to be considered. And there is a whittling down through an incredibly thorough due diligence process. That due diligence process is more thorough than most of the other ones I've been through traditionally with private equity firms or venture capital firms. And last week, we were announced as one of the few America's Most Fundable Company Awards. We're incredibly proud of that. So if any of you are considering investing in us and wanting to look at all of our, data room and everything, trust what I tell you, that was thoroughly gone through by a team of expert entrepreneurs and investors who were the judges in that contest. I'm going to put a link to the Sat News quick wire announcement about that. It was just last week.
Yeah, I
congrats on that, Andrew and the rest of Space Phoenix teams. It was a great award.
Last night, Frank and I were up in New York, and thanks to Tien and the great team from Connectpreneur and Opus 8, met with about 50 investors live in person, and we had the award there, and I led with that. It's actually even better than Frank said. There was about 170 defense and space companies originally vetted, and we were, of that small group, the only space company to win America's Most Fundable Company. So yeah, and that data room is available to anyone that wants to see it if you want to go through that kind of due diligence. But we've spent the last 11 months going through that process with Pepperdine University. There was also another announcement. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, please do get connected with me on LinkedIn. Another announcement came out last week, a joint announcement between us and United Semiconductors that came out last week. That was huge. We will be doing 26 missions with United Semiconductors. Just to give you an idea of what that will be, the 26 missions with United Semiconductors will yield $32.5 million over a 28-month period. So one customer will fund all of our operations for over 2 years. So there's a couple questions here coming through. I'm going to ask, look at this one question. Do you have any plans to convert your individual missions into a connected longer-term space lab space station? We have a partner called Rogue Space. Rogue Space is doing unmanned space stations. Our business model is behind Frank, right there behind Frank. That's Rogue Space's platform. It's an unmanned platform. Our business model is about cadence. John Beam, is from Rogue Space is here. I didn't know you were here, John. Thanks for joining. John and Rogue Space is a really important partner, and there's a couple reasons why. Our business model is about cadence, getting spacecraft up into orbit, completing a mission, and getting back. And I'll give you an example. We have a lot of biotech customers. We have 4 biotech customers already. The biotech customers want to go up for a week to 2 weeks and get back down. When I talk to my biotech customers, I say, I'm going to give you a discount. I'm going to discount the cost of your flight because I get the spacecraft back quickly and I can reuse it. If we need to stay up for 6 months or longer, I partner with Rogue Space. I leave the payload in space. I return my spacecraft. So I get that cadence. I get that revenue. Very important for us to, very important. As far as Space Lab or Star Lab and the space station, we're partnering across that market. The Hermes spacecraft, which is the spacecraft behind me, and the spacecraft you see hold on here, right here, the Hermes spacecraft will not have rendezvous capability, but we will have the ability to be grappled by an arm, Star Lab, or grappled by another spacecraft and brought into a space station. So we're going to partner across that industry. What are the main objections, reasons you have heard about not investing in Space Phoenix? Guys, I think one of the early objections were, they're the 5 T's of investing, right? Or what the investors look like. I say it's the 5 T's plus 1. Do you have a good team? The team has grown, and I would say initially, it was me, Frank, Mike, and our CTO Tal trying to run around the world, generate this investment. Well, now we have an entire team. We have Bart Fisher as a lobbyist. We have Jason Wynn as internal counsel. We have Fawn Patrick as a director of marketing operations. We have an entire team now. The next is the tech, right? People don't always understand the tech. I'm going to let you guys know our tech is robust and proven technology. Everyone wants to ask this question about the technology. Guys, if you go to Google later on today, type in Gemini 7, cut the top third of the Gemini 7 capsule off, and that's our spacecraft. On purpose, by design. Guys, we're trying to deliver capacity to the market, not some newfangled technology. So we're going to support the market with good, robust, inexpensive technology. The next is traction. We've got incredible traction. I think very early on, we obviously didn't have that traction. We do now. Terms, we've got incredible terms. What we're here to talk to you about today is a $25 million valuation. Very low in $5,000 minimum investment. So we've got really great terms. And then the plus 1 is trust. I think this team has stuck with Space Phoenix for a year and a half now. So we've built some trust in the marketplace. So that's how we're moving forward in the market. Could you believe you fly the yellow of inner? Oh yeah, Stuart, great question. Incredible. There's no other way to say it. We've got two very large opportunities in the Middle East. Believe it or not, because of some of my support, some of the support we're getting from Rogue and American Deep Tech, we've got another really interesting opportunity for an Asia Pacific nation. So the interest is coming from all over the globe right now, and it's actually a little overwhelming, to be quite honest. Matt
And
Cray
Andrew,
here.
we are going to continue with the Q&A, but while we do that, I will just put up the poll for the attendees that are on, but we can move to the next question while this is up for a few minutes.
Right. So I'm just gonna lack of understanding who actually owns the spacecraft and what insurance liability is the Space Phoenix systems assume relative to its clients. Is if there was damage to a load, how does that impact? So guys, the space insurance industry is coming along it's maturing pretty well. Where Bart Fisher is on the call here, I mentioned him earlier. Whether he likes it or not, he's going to become an expert in space law and space insurance. So we're going to be insured just like you would insure, quite frankly, if you put anything on a third-party logistics provider, your payload's going to be insured. So that's how we're going to manage it. There's a little bit more risk in getting spacecraft up into orbit and back. So the insurance, as you could imagine, is going to be a little bit steeper, but we've already brought those costs into the model, and it remains profitable and relatively risk-free. And who owns the spacecraft? That's actually a much bigger question than you think. Initially, Space Phoenix is going to own all of its spacecraft. You can imagine a world, and I hesitate to answer this question this way, but you can imagine a world where you start building a commercial spacecraft model, right? Frank and I flew on United just last week. United doesn't own most of its spacecraft. They lease the spacecraft back to United because they're a reusable commodity. We may move into that. Our business model allows for it, and this is a very interesting part of the business model. Our business model allows us to use much more advanced financial structures than a standard one and done space company would be able to use. So, Matt, really great question. Another question, looking at Space Phoenix from an investor's lens, what milestones do you consider? The most important is closing this round right now, as anyone could imagine. Funding. That's where I spend probably 110% of my time. So that's a big milestone, but we're so close to that. I don't think that's going to be a problem. The next milestone is really development. We go through PDR, product readiness review. That's actually happening at the end of October. That's going to be a huge milestone, and there'll be a huge announcement to the market on that. Because after PDR, we start bending metal for our first spacecraft. If anyone gets themselves up to New Hampshire, we'd welcome you to tour our facility up at University of New Hampshire and see the spacecraft being built. But that's the real big milestones here. And then, of course, that first launch in Q2 2027. It's going to be a massive milestone. And guys, let's be honest, Q2 2027 is in less than 18 months. So that's going to happen. And that'll be a big deal. Another question.
Sure. I'm going to leave the poll up for about 1 more minute, just so everyone on the call knows. If you haven't had a chance to answer it, I'll have it up for about 1 more minute.
Great. Adjacent industries, semiconductor. We're seeing most of our traction right now in the advanced material space of semiconductors. Okay, so advanced materials for semiconductors. I'll give you an example. There's a material called GaN, gallium arsenic nitrate. It is exceedingly difficult to create on Earth. Less than 4% yield in the best processing on Earth. In space, you get over 95% yield. This is a game-changing production model. GaN handles heat to the tune of 50% less heat created, and it's about 10x more efficient than any silicon you can create on Earth. But it's a very difficult thing to create on Earth. In space, we can do it. The other pieces, obviously pharma, Lambda Vision, extremely important to us. Estra Biotech, another company out there doing really, really interesting stuff. So I think initially you're going to see the real benefits come in three sectors: semiconductors, biopharma, and the third that's not mentioned here is battery production. The types of materials you can create in orbit for battery production is really quite exquisite. There's obvious defense applications, so we're not going to walk away from defense money. But as Mike Larkin, who's on the line here, would tell you, our commercial revenue is almost 85–90% by 2028. By 2029, over $210 million in revenue, and I believe 90% of that is commercial. So the commercial market is really going to be the dominant force there. Okay, so there's two questions here. Space economy has the greatest potential for new. Well, guys, I think it's us. I think it's logistics. I'm sorry. I look at the world through Space Phoenix colored glasses. I don't know if this question was a plant here. I think space logistics and infrastructure is by far the most critical piece to the growing market. We've got commercial space station coming online. No infrastructure to manage it. We've got in-space manufacturing coming online. No infrastructure to manage it. Microgravity research, we're 700 microgravity experiments behind just on the ISS. We've got to build the infrastructure to do it. And don't believe me, Larry Fink put out his 2025 report back in, I think it was end of April, beginning of May. And Larry Fink called out $9 to $13 trillion spend in space infrastructure. So guys, we're in the right place at the right time with the right product, and damn, we got a good team. So it's just we're there, guys. That is definitely that's a great question. That was a softball for me. And obviously I got a little excited about that one. Sorry, guys. Do you in any way in the actual manufacturing space by offering equipment, or do you leave it? So it's a really interesting question. I'm going to go back. I'll protect the innocent. We were approached by a biotech customer that's done 5 experiments on the International Space Station. They're developing cures for cancer in orbit. And they came to me and we were having a really, really great conversation. They said, listen, we're not space people. How do we build? We need help building our payload to get into space. We don't do that. And I looked at the woman's name, Marianne. I said, Marianne, I don't know how to cure cancer. So why don't you worry about curing cancer and I'll build your space payload. So we're going to bring in some consultants. We're going to bring in some folks. We're already in conversations with multiple folks from NASA, multiple folks from the ISS to come join the team to actually help our customers develop. And again, it's all about removing the burden off of the in-space manufacturers. So we're going to do that for our customers. Now, in the end, the payload's going to be their responsibility, but we will aid them in how they develop the payloads and how they move things forward. I hope that answers your question, Miho. All right, Skylar, how do you think Space Phoenix's model differentiates you from the competitors? Okay, there's 2 really key things. One is a massive technical advantage, and the other one is our business model. I'll start with the business model. Guys, our focus is just different. Our focus is myopic on space logistics. We're not doing anything else other than, we'll help folks, consult with them to that they can manage their payloads, but only so we can build our own customers, right? We're building our own customer base. So our business model is exquisite, and I think that really differentiates us in the marketplace. And if you just go look at our website, look at the words we use. My face is on YouTube to my dismay, but if you go out on YouTube and listen to any of my talks out on YouTube, and then compare it to any of our near-peer partners, you'll see that Space Phoenix talks and approaches the market differently. The other one has a massive technical advantage that we've brought to the market. Everybody else in the market, I'm going to get a little technical here, uses a disposable service module, okay? They basically use, if you guys promise not to let SpaceX know I was picking on them. This down below here is what SpaceX calls the Dragon Garage. Okay, it is their service module. It has extra fuel, extra power, so on and so forth, to fuel and to power the mission. It costs $600 million a copy, and it never comes back. It stays in space. Our other competitors, near-peer partners, all use much smaller service modules, but they're anywhere from $2.5 to $12.5 million, and they never come back. We're not doing that. Rogue Space is on this call for a reason. They're a critical partner. When we need extra power, when we need extra fuel, and vice versa, when Rogue Space needs extra fuel, we're going to bring them the fuel that they need. When we need extra power, we're going to tether in space. And that may not sound so differentiating in the marketplace, but the silly analogy I use, if you're going to drive a truck across country, you don't have a tanker on the back of the truck. You just drive across country and you stop at a fuel station. That's what we're going to do. That infrastructure is getting built in space, and we're going to take advantage of that. Mike, you got a response
Just a
there?
comment. Andrew's too humble to say this, but one of the things that came out of the Pepperdine process, which I was very much a part of, they saw Andrew himself as being a tremendous competitive advantage. Unlike companies like Atmos, Elevation, Catalyx are all great companies doing their thing. They don't have the connections in the U.S. market, and the U.S. is going to drive this. Andrew has open doors to NASA. He's literally got key people at NASA asking how they can help. We have tremendous government connections right up to the governor in Maryland. Andrew's got personally got a very high security clearance. So they said, we think he is your competitive advantage. When you combine that with kind of the gray hair, as Andrew said, around the team, they felt that we've got all kinds of people that will learn their way to the top. A lot of companies have people that earned it. And the people that earned it are the brilliant technical people. They come in as CEOs of the company. But the smart guys also bring in people that have learned their way. And people like Frank Johnson, who started as a young guy and worked through an organization to running multi-billion-dollar corporations, disrupting industries. Those people are critical to making things happen. And we've got a whole team of people like that. So they also saw our team being very unique, unlike anybody they'd seen in the competition. And that was one of the reasons why, through all their risk mitigation, they designated Andrew and the team as being a tremendous competitive advantage. I just want to reinforce that.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Guys, I promise I did not plant that question there with Mike. Guys, I've been in this. I've been managing national security space projects since 2012. I'm fully cleared, and so I can have the conversations in places that our near-peer partners cannot. That is a strategic competitive advantage for Space Phoenix in the U.S. marketplace. There's a few other folks that are doing this. We need more, but it is definitely a strategic competitive advantage. As a matter of fact, Kendra Parlock and myself, our very first business trip as co-founders was an invite trip to NASA Langley, and we are now working with NASA Langley on our second generation of return technology for space. So we have connections at every NASA facility across the country. So it's really incredible. As a matter of fact, we have a member from NASA HQ, a former spacecraft project manager, mission operations manager, joining the team in the next 30 days. And we have the former payload manager from the International Space Station joining the team, just to give you an idea of the pull. So the team is good. The team is great. The team's getting better. So that's it. There was a question asked by Damon Downing. Damon's been a longtime supporter, and he always asks these questions. I appreciate the tough question, Damon. IP trade secret protection. With the first spacecraft, the one you see behind my head, Hermes Alpha, Beta, there will be some IP, and we will seek protection on that. The second generation spacecraft, Athena, sorry to jump around here. This is the Athena class spacecraft. There'll be very serious IP on Athena, right? We'll have a little extra time. Hermes is there to get to market quickly and to drive revenue. That's what Hermes is there. Athena will wind up being the workhorse of the fleet. 350 kilos up and back, and a scalable platform. When we eventually get to Zeus, there's a lot of technology that'll go into Zeus. Cloud security and data governance. I think Jerome Milton's on this call. Yeah, there's Jerome. Jerome and I were just talking about this 2 weeks ago in Texas. So we're doing work on that already, and we have partners. I'll protect the innocent here, but we already have partners helping us with the cloud security and IP, not IP protection, should be cybersecurity in orbit. I don't know. Okay, there's another question here. What are your thoughts about space becoming a poor part? Well, this is actually interesting because Andrew Rose and Skylar put up a similar question here. Another supporter of ours, or at least initial lending his support, is a gentleman named Greg Autry. Greg Autry is moving to be NASA's CFO, and as I think just last week was announced as Trump's space czar. I believe that's correct. Anna Brady's on the line. She can correct me if I'm wrong. But Greg just wrote a book called Red Moon Rising. And this is really, yep, there it is. Really, really interesting. It's all about how America is going to win the next space race. And the next space race is about, a big chunk of it is about in-space manufacturing, a big chunk of it. The first chapter of Greg's book is, we're not winning the space race. The rest of his book is about how we are going to win the space race. So there's absolutely no doubt that this infrastructure, this piece, is important and getting even more so. The criticality of what we're doing is just growing. So that is definitely going to happen. That was a good question, Skylar. I don't know who asked that one.
Hey, Andrew.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, gang, so you can take a breath. There's a number of U.S. federal government leaders who are on record who have been quoted as saying, in-space manufacturing is a national security imperative. And of course, the ensuing space race, as Andrew just pointed out, is with China. You can go look this up. The documented number of new spacecraft launches that China is going to launch in the next 10 years is measured in the tens of thousands. And a number of those are destined to, in this segment, to support in-space manufacturing.
Yeah. What we're doing here, folks, is not just about American competitiveness. It's a national security issue, and we're here for it. And I think that's an interesting part of my clearance, and then the company will be applying for its facility level clearance, which is a company level clearance. That'll be happening towards the end of this year. Stuart Cohen, can you comment on the large backlog of tech demonstrations? Oh yeah, this is really interesting, guys. So I talk about in-space manufacturing, very important, right? Biotech, semiconductors, advanced materials, so on. Very, very important. But I talked about microgravity experiments, but there's a whole backlog because quite frankly, the capability hasn't existed, what we call tech demonstration. This is just technology getting onto a platform, getting into space, checking the technology out, making sure everything works, and then getting that tech back. You've never been able to do that before. It's kind of madness. You would put technology up into space, and you've done all your great testing on Earth and so on and so forth, and it didn't work. And then the dirty little secret is nobody could tell you why. Yeah, you have sensors, and you might be able to figure out what happened, but not really. You're never 100% sure. When something breaks in space, you're never 100% sure. Did it get shook loose on the launch? Did it get hit by a micrometeor? Was there a gremlin or a Martian? Who knows, right? We're going to be able to have an entire industry vertical supported and led by Stuart, right? Because Stuart asked the question, but on a vertical that he's going to be leading on tech demonstration, and it's never been done before. So, like and oh, by the way, we got asked just yesterday about how do we support cislunar return. We've got a response for that. It's a few more years out. It's one column past what you see on this technology roadmap, but we're going to have to start thinking about lunar return. What does that look like? Space Phoenix is here for it. Quite frankly, John Beam's on the call. I think it's a combination of Rogue Space and Space Phoenix together doing those kinds of missions. So guys, we've got just a couple minutes left. I would love if someone asked one or two more questions. It would be really, really great. I know I gave you a lot to think about. A few people have dropped off. But if not, I will thank everyone for their time. And Etienne, what questions haven't we asked that we should? I addressed
Hey,
most
Andrew,
of
can
them.
I help with one?
Please, please.
Hey, gang, I'm going to go back to the competition one. We get asked about competition all the time. Now, two things of note. Number one, when we sit down with what Andrew would refer to as a near peer competitor, and we talk about the market opportunity and what they're doing and what we're doing, 100% of the time, those conversations end in a partnership agreement. The market's massive, and we're leaning in with everybody to help address the market. Number two, we're a third-party logistics company for space. That's it, a 3PL. Get stuff up and get it back. Just to give you an idea, if we're wildly successful by the end of the decade and we capture, single-digit percentage points of the market, which is realistically our capacity. We're well north of $100 million company, but who's going to address the other 95%? There needs to be 10, 20, 100 companies like Space Phoenix who are in the space logistics business. Now you may think, well, that's a big number, but let's compare that to the terrestrial 3PL market. Does anybody have any idea how many third-party logistics providers there are in the United States on the ground alone? Without touching your keyboard and asking ChatGPT. A lot of people tell me 10, 20, 30. FedEx, UPS, and DHL are the biggest. There are 70,000 registered third-party logistics companies here in the United States alone. The market is massive. We can address a fraction of it. Competition, there's got to be a lot more companies like Space Phoenix addressing the capacity issue.
Yeah, I'm on record, and actually you can go out to Space News being the only space executive that talked about pizza on stage. I addressed this question about the size of the market. This is a piece of pizza dough that hasn't been cooked yet. We're still stretching the pizza, right? Eventually it'll be cooked and we'll start slicing and dicing it, but not right away. So two questions here. How much are we raising? $10 million this round, 6.5 is committed. Part of that 6.5 is what we're here talking to you about today. So the special purpose vehicle is what we talked about, and it's very, very easy, guys. We've actually have several investors in the SPV on this call right now, so that is happening. Major investors, actually, American Deep Tech is primary. It definitely took us on as the very first big investor, and then King's Heart, which is a new VC here in Maryland, has come on board, and they'll actually wind up being the lead in the end, the individual investor lead. Outside of that, I think Tien in New York, I think we probably got line of sight to about the at least half, if not 3/4 of what the 3.5 that's left. So guys, I will not to be too goofy, you do have to move a little with some pace here. We have a lot of momentum, so that's really good stuff. There's a question out here about, and this will be my last one. Thoughts of space debris avoidance, guys. We actually have a project within Army Research Lab right now to partner together with Rogue Space to recover defunct satellites using the return technology that's here on Athena. So we're going to try to address parts of that, but again, we're going to address it in a very profitable way. We're going to bring back satellites that are up there as quote unquote space junk, we're going to bring them back to be recycled or restored and refurbished and relaunched. It's again, it's an entire new vertical that no one globally is addressing right now. So that's a really good question.
Andrew, if I may just quickly, I
Please.
think the an issue of potential liability has come up once or twice on the
Yes,
chat
please.
here. Just wanted to sort of address one portion of that, is that so space exploration and spacecraft typically all sign a specific mutual waiver of liability. So space exploration partners aren't really allowed to hold each other liable. So it
Yeah.
eliminates quite a bit of that concern.
Yeah, that is interesting, Jason. Jason is our internal counsel, guys. There was one of the questions: do we have plans to go to the moon? The simple answer is yes. We want to be our growth plan, and we've been asked this not once but 3 times now, because there is no one, zero, globally, that is talking about building logistical infrastructure from the Earth to the moon. We believe we can do it with our Zeus spacecraft. However, that's definitely not part of this conversation. That's probably a Series B conversation. But we do have plans, and I think it would be exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on the moon, guys. It's kind of crazy, much more so than the more normal person, non-space dork, which I am, knows. So please contact me, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any other questions. I really think it's time to get off stage. Tien, why don't you bring us home, unless there's a member of the Space Phoenix team that has anything else to say.
Hey, it
All
sounds
right.
like we're okay. Awesome, Andrew and Frank and the whole Space Phoenix team. Thank you so much. We got a lot of great questions in the chat. I'm sure there's many of you who want to follow up with the Space Phoenix team. So Avery will be sending out an email to everyone today with the recording from this meeting, as well as an introduction to Andrew and Frank, so you can have follow-up conversations with them. And if you have any questions, feel free to stay on for a minute. Otherwise, we can end the meeting here. And thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, everybody.